9.6, we're going to be talking about the inverse functions. Okay, inverse sine, inverse cosine, and inverse tangent, also known as arc sine, arc cosine, and arc tangent. Okay, in your calculator, when you look at those, you'll see the tan -1 or sine -1 or cos -1 that looks like this. All right, we call those the inverse or the arc trig functions there, or trig ratios. Okay, so whereas the previous three sections three trig ratios that we talked about, those found side lengths, these find angle measures. So one thing to put into your notes down here: use sine, cosine, and tangent to find sides. Use inverse sine, inverse cosine, and inverse tangent to find angles. Okay? Kind of the route we go on these. Let's try some of them out then. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next page. Okay? I guess one other thing real quick. When we say to solve a right triangle, it means find all the unknown lengths and angle measures. So that means find all 6 parts of it. All 3 sides and all 3 angles. That's how you solve a right triangle. Okay? So, example 1 here says determine which of the 2 acute angles has the given trig ratio. Okay? Let's start with that. The cosine of the angle is 24/25. Which of the 2 acute angles has the given trig ratio? Go and talk to your neighbor about it real quick. Okay, how many say angle? Well, first, what are the 2 acute angles? F and G, okay. Which of those 2 has a cosine of 24/25? Yeah? Is it F? Let's check. If I trace F, the cosine would be the adjacent over the hypotenuse. It's 24/25. Yeah, it is F. Good. All right. Let's try the next one. The sine of the angle is about 38/100. Okay. Go ahead and figure it out there. All right, how many say angle E? Angle F? Oh. How'd you figure it out there, Carson? Okay, so you said sine's opposite over hypotenuse. So you said if I try E, sine of E would be root 2 over root 14. And when you divided those, you got 0.38. Yeah, good. It is angle E. All right, very good. Any questions there? All right, well, let's try number 3. Okay, go ahead and work with your groupies there. Do your best. Okay, so we're saying that this is a triangle from an angle from a triangle. Please keep in mind your mode needs to be in degrees. Okay, and then when we're actually calculating the sine of H, that means if you think of it as equations, if you want to think like I need to get H by itself, if you want to kind of keep going in that thought process, you're moving sine over, and when you move sine over, it becomes the inverse sine of that. So when I take the inverse sine of 0.2, everyone find the inverse sine on their calculator? Yeah, second sine, right? Okay. Second sine. And we go 0.2. It looks like we get 11.5. We're going to the nearest 10. Okay, good. So approximately 11.5 degrees. Pretty good? Tell your neighbor what the third angle of that triangle would measure. That's not part of the question, but I want to know what the third angle of this right triangle that has angle H in it, what it would measure. Okay, should only take you about a minute or so, not even that. All right, I heard it from a few. There's a 90. If this one's let's say that one's 11.5, obviously not to scale. What's this one have to be? 78.5. These two have to add up to 90 degrees. Okay, the whole thing adds up to 180. Okay? Questions there? All right, very good. Gino almost raised his hand. Okay, number 7 through 10, I want you to solve the right triangle. Let's start with number 7. Number 7. Okay, so first, can we find... How many of you found an angle first? Or thinking of finding an angle first? How many found a side first? How could we find a side first? Danica? Sure, yeah, use the Pythagorean theorem. Right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. That you could find a side if you wanted to by using the Pythagorean theorem. So you get 36 plus 144 is equal to c squared. C squared then is 180, and C is, if we went to the nearest 10, 13.4. Sound right? Okay. All right. Now that's a rounded amount, so if you're using your trig ratios later, try to avoid using any rounded values if you can. Okay. Now if I want to find an angle measure, let's say I want to find A. Okay, and I am given two sides. Okay, in relation to A, what is this? It's adjacent. What's this? Oh, opposite. That's a close one. Okay, opposite and adjacent is? Yeah, tangent. Remember, so, toa. Okay, make sure you write it out if you have to. Okay, opposite and adjacent. So the tangent of our angle A is equal to the opposite side over the adjacent side. Which, by the way, if you wanted to, you could reduce that to 2. Okay, bless you. So tan A is actually equal to 2. So A is equal to, if we move that tangent over, it becomes inverse tangent of 2. So A is approximately
63.4.
Good. So if we round the nearest 10, 63.4 degrees. Now you can find C by just subtracting 63.4 from 90. Right? Because these two have to add up to 90, because the third is 90. .6. All right, 26.6 degrees. Very good. All right, so we've now completed our triangle. Any questions? All right, you've got the next 3 with your groupies. Give them a go. Complete those triangles.
the answer, it's only 2 decimal places do you put that? Because, like,
Go to the nearest tenth of it.
okay, so, because I get the answer, like, 0.28. So
Yep.
would you just want to do 0.3?
0.3.
Alright.
All right. There is number 8.
How do you find ED?
Oh yeah.
What'd I do?
Pythagorean theorem.
But it's not the hypotenuse.
Yeah, but you just don't need.
It doesn't have
hypotenuse. You need B. You need to find B.
A, B, C. A, B, and C. Yeah.
So like the ones that you told us, like for number 7, how it became 13.4, and you said like try to avoid rounding the numbers. So
Mhm.
would you like us to just leave it in radical form?
No. When you put your answer, so like on number 7, go ahead and round to the nearest tenth like they asked you to. It just means when you're using one of your trig functions, if you can avoid using this rounded value as part of your function, then do that. Okay? It's part of your equation to find the other side. Okay, any questions on it? Okay, so on number 9, it's a bit different. You have 2 sides. So I'm going to call one y. Actually, I'm going to call this one x, I think. X and y. Okay? So you can't use the Pythagorean theorem to begin with to figure out a side length, but what you could do is if you... Quiet, please. If you wanted to, you could trace this angle. If I use that one, I could use cosine because I have adjacent and hypotenuse. Okay, or I'm looking for adjacent and hypotenuse. So the cosine of 52 is equal to x over 3. And if I go through and solve that, I get 3 cos 52 equals x. So x is 1.8. Then y, if I go through the same process, I could either, I guess I could use, this is opposite. I could use sine of 52 is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So I get 3 sine 52 is equal to y. So y is approximately 2.4. Okay, so now I have all 3 sides. I need to find my other angles. How can I find another angle?
Subtract 52 from 90.
Yeah, 52 minus 90. That's going to give me a negative. Oh, 90 minus 52. I think that's what Sam said originally. Anyway. 90 minus 52 is 38. 38 degrees. Very good. All right, so you got all 3 parts. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put up the answer for the last one. You haven't seen it yet. Okay, how many have finished the last one? Number 10? Okay, here is the work for number 10. Okay, so x is 37, or this side is, side zy is 37.1, side zx is 32.5. Okay, our angle is 61.
When is our test on this?
After spring break.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? So, really? Yeah. Hey, number 11. Give number 11 a go, please. Boat is pulled in by a winch to the dock 12 feet above the deck of the boat. When the winch is fully extended, it's 25 feet. They actually drew the picture for you. Ridiculous, I know, but give it a go. Tell your neighbor your answer.
28%.
28.7. There it is, 28%. Well done. Hey, make sure you're not getting rounding errors by doing things like rounding early. Let me say that again for those who didn't pay attention to what I just said. Make sure your rounding errors are not happening because you're rounding early. So, for instance, on this problem, if you rounded tan 29 early, or on this problem over here, if you rounded sine 52 before you multiplied by 3. Okay, do not round. Put the entire trig function into your calculator. Type in sine 52 rather than decimal approximation of it. Okay? Any questions? All right.